Today on the history of politics, do you remember growing up? Maybe some of you aren't old enough for it, but there used to be a thing on Saturdays called Schoolhouse Rock. And in Schoolhouse Rock, there was this one that explained about how bills become laws. It was called I'm Just a Bill. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how a bill becomes a law. So, as you may or may not know, Congress is broken down into committees. You have the Oversight Committee, you have the Budget Committee, you have the Judiciary Committee, just to name a few. So the way that a bill begins is in a committee. Actually, it begins with maybe one particular congressperson or two. The one that comes up with the idea, the proposal, is known as the sponsor. Another person that could be involved is the co-sponsor. And they could be from either party. It could be from the same party or the other party. It could be more than one co-sponsor. It could be 10 co-sponsors. The bill is addressed in committee. It's introduced in committee. Committee has a vote on it. If it survives that vote, it moves forward. Or they could debate it out, make changes to it, and then move forward where the House will vote on it. Once the House votes on it, it goes to the Senate. The Senate may debate it, and they may make changes to it. They may leave it alone. Now, let's say they make changes to it. They make changes to it. It goes after the Senate votes on the changes. They send it back to the House, and the House reviews it again. Okay? So there's a lot of reviewing, a lot of debate going on in the process of making this law. Because remember, look at the gravity of it. If it does become a law, it's going to affect a lot of people all over the country. So the idea is we have to do what's best for everybody, the best case scenario for everybody. At least that's what it's supposed to be. We're going to talk about the variations in a minute. But that's what it's supposed to be. Goes back to the House. The House can look at that and they may make changes to it yet again. Or they could vote to leave it as is. And then it'll come up for a full vote. And if it passes the full vote, then it goes to the president for his signature or veto. The veto meaning that if the president vetoes it, it's dead. Well, it could be dead. The Constitution provides a way to override a veto, too, if it's important enough. But let's say, now you can have a situation where, okay, the House makes more changes, and it goes back to the Senate. The Senate says, we don't like this. Then it gets stalled. It can get stalled. There's even a situation where a particular bill might not even be brought to the floor for a vote. There's a lot of different little contingencies in this process, trying to get it done. The smoothest outcome is we'll start at the point where it went back to the House with changes from the Senate. The House reviews that, and then they work out a compromise. The House leadership and the Senate leadership, they work out a compromise. It goes back to the Senate with the compromise. The Senate approves it. It goes back to the House. The House votes on it. It goes to the president. The president has a choice. He can veto it or he can sign it into law. Well, let's just say that the president vetoes that bill. Where do you go from there? We really want this bill. The people need this bill. Where do we go from there? Well, the Constitution allows that via a 2/3 vote of the House and a 2/3 vote of the Senate, that will override a presidential veto. It has happened. God knows we need more of that now. God knows we do. And I want to be clear about one thing, because there's been a lot of confusion in the last 9 months about this. Executive orders are not bills, they're not laws. You can't rule by fiat with an executive order. That's not how the system works. The Article 1 of the Constitution, which we just talked about a couple of weeks ago, gives full power to the legislative branch, aka Congress, to make the laws, not the executive branch. Two things the executive branch, that's the president and the vice president and his cabinet. Two things that they cannot do. Number one, they cannot offer proposals to change the Constitution whatsoever. Meaning that birthright citizenship, for example, is a product of the 14th Amendment. You can't write an executive order and override the Constitution. If you do, it's an illegal order. It doesn't work that way. Some people that are unqualified for their job should know this and exorcise it because it is illegal. You cannot do it. Only Congress can do it. If Congress has authorized funding for this, that, or the other, the executive branch cannot change that. They cannot. Conversely, the executive branch cannot create a government agency and fund it. Like Doge. Doge was a completely illegal operation. Congress alone has the power to create and to fund through the Appropriations Committee. They fund a government office or government organization. They did not do that with Doge. Nobody from Doge has been vetted. Elon Musk was never vetted. Those little Doge bro kids, like big balls, was never vetted. And now he's under investigation because he put 300 million American citizens' personal information into an unsecured database. This is what you get when you have ineptitude at the top. This is what you get. The bottom line is this. The framers of the Constitution, the founders of this country, they weren't stupid. They weren't perfect, but they had a pretty good grasp on things. They knew what they were doing. They were smart. They were trained. For the most part, they knew what they were doing. And because of dark money getting into politics, things have gotten screwed up. Dark money has been tilting the law to their advantage ever since the Citizens United ruling back in 2011 from the Supreme Court. Once this dark money got into politics, the rich started to write the laws. It's a fact. It's a damn shame, too. Once again, as it was once said, men in denim built this country, and men in suits are destroying it. The framers didn't want men in suits running this country. I'm sorry. I'm terribly sorry to tell you that. They wanted regular, average Americans to write the laws, to get involved in policy, because it affected them. And that's the truth about how a bill becomes a law. That's the facts. How it can be done and how it can't be done. How it's supposed to be done and how it's not supposed to be done. If you learned something today, like and subscribe. See you on the next one.